好，我们这学期，do we have a Sebastian here？我们的 Sebastian 已经回家了吗？Hi. Sorry. Okay, I was looking for you, and I'm not sure if you are still here or not. Okay, so we still have Sebastian here, so we still need to talk in English, right? Okay. So this term, we still have a Monday class and a Tuesday class. And welcome. If you really have something have to do on Thursday morning, and you have to take a day leave, then welcome to join Monday class. But please, if you want to do that, you have to email me in advance. Then I will know you will join our Monday class. 好，所以因为我们还是有礼拜一跟礼拜二的课，如果你礼拜二真的要请假，真的不得已，一定有什么事情要请假，也很欢迎你就事先告诉我，你也可以去参加我们礼拜一的课程。这样子的话，since we hope you can figure out some of the concepts during the class and you can practice more in class with us. So I would encourage you to join Monday class if you have to take a leave on Tuesday. OK， 所以如果你礼拜二真的要请假，那不得已，然后你可以事先跟我讲，然后你可以来上礼拜一的课这样子。那我也不会扣掉你的 participation， 就是你还是一样，你的参与的成绩还是都是一样的这样子。OK， 好 ，so OK， this year this term we have 3 TA, two are from last term. So it's 杨仁汉跟郭东汉学长。But we have a new TA, 谢炳俊。谢炳俊 is our senior student， 是我们的大四的同学，我们大四的学长。那谢炳俊学长这一学期也会 join 我们的 TA 团队，然后就会帮助大家一起来学 Java。Okay, so we have 3 TAs. 杨仁汉、郭宗汉还有谢炳俊。Okay, 3 handsome boys. So, if in the future, if you are interested in helping me to help your juniors, then welcome to tell me. OK， 好，如果以后你想要来帮我当我的 TA 的话，也可以跟谢炳俊学长一样，就也很欢迎你。如果你也跟我一样，就是对教育这个大一的小学弟、小学妹有兴趣的话，那就是来 join 我这样哈。Okay, this term we will introduce some advanced topics, including interface. This is another polymorphism technique, and GUI, graphic user interface. That is all about the GUI is about design and database. Since we will have a final project, I will ask you to implement a Java application. And that Java application has to access database. So you have to have add data, update data, delete data, those functions in your Java application. 好，所以我们的期末一定要有新增、删除、修改的功能。你们的最后的 final project 必须是 Java application. We are not Python class, not R class, so don't use other language to implement your application. Of course, if you want to expand your Java application with other programming help, that's okay. You can use Python to crawling data for your application, but at the end, you have to demo a Java application in front of us. 好 你当然可以用其他的语言，你已经学过的 Python 去帮助你去收集资料，像是 crawling 这 web 这样子的一件事情。然后呢，收集完资料以后，再用你的 Java application 去呈现。所以终究你要 demo 的是 Java 的 application， 而不是其他的。 所以如果你要用也可以，但是最后是 Java 的。So we are not allowed JavaScript or JSP whatever other application. I want you to use Java. 好，所以你们就是最后就是用 Java 的亲戚都不行，好，就是 JSP 啊什么 JavaScript 什么都不行，就是 Java. Okay, that's our final project. And okay, and this turn we are going to cooperate with Arizona State University. So this is going to be an international class. And at the very first part, I will introduce interface by myself. And then second part, GUI, I will introduce the basic concept of GUI first. And then ASU's professor will introduce some of the GUI framework. So you will need to watch the videos produced by the ASU professor, and then you will come back to the class. We will have an lab practice in class. 所以 GUI 的部分，在 interface 的部分，就是第一个考试之前都是老师我自己教你们，然后所以那个部分还是我们自己教自己练习。第二个部分 GUI 的部分，我会先介绍一次基本的 GUI 的 concept， 之后我们会 deliver 这个 ASU 老师录制的 GUI framework 的一些 video， 所以你们都要在课堂上自己去先，就是翻转跟学，你们就会先听 video。那我们一样在课堂上还会有我们的 practice。Whenever we practice in class, Tia and I will be here. I will help you to learn more about the concepts. So please, you have to watch that videos in advance. Otherwise, when you come to the class, you don't know how to implement our practice. Okay? So if you don't know exactly how to implement, I will stay with you and accompany you to finish your lab like last turn, OK？ 所以如果你真的我真的会坐在你旁边一步一步看着你完成你的 lab， 所以这个压力有点大，所以你不要这样子好，所以上课前还是要把 video 读完听完，快速的听也是听，好，慢慢的听也是听，当背景音乐播放也是，反正你就是要听，要先懂一些。不然你上课你就会压力有点大。practice 我们还是会有翻转教学的部分。Okay, and the last part we will focus on the database. So I know you will take the database class in the future. So probably the second year or third year, but this term I will just introduce you how to do the database in a basic way. So you will at least make one table and try to retrieve data from that table and add data, update data from that table. So at least you need to create a database table and then you need to retrieve data, delete data, update data from that. Okay. 所以这是最基本的要求。我知道你们之后会再上资料库的课程。那我没有要跟资料库的课程的老师抢工作，所以我教你的资料库是最简单的、最基础的。那所以这一次你们要的 Java application 的 final project 就是要用这个 table， 就是要至少要有一个 table， 然后要从里面新增删除修改。这是基本的 requirement。当然你要if you want to create more than one table, that's of course I will be more than happy to see that. 好，如果你有任何更想要制造更复杂的 database， 我超高兴的，你也可以跟我一起讨论，我也很喜欢。只是这个我就不抢别人的工作了，所以你们这个课我们就会基本上 cover 这些东西。And okay, so this term we still have 3 exams. And several assignments. If you learn from that term, you know each assignment is very important for your final grade. So last term, some of students missed one or two assignments and that really something to his final grade. He did very well on his exam, but finally he didn't get very well grade because he missed the assignment. OK，所以如果你可以从我们的课程知道说我们作业很重，我们作业跟我们的考试差不多了。虽然你的考试可以考得很好，但你作业一定要交。And integrity is very important. So please, last term, some of the students might accidentally to share their assignments to their friends. If you want to share your assignment answer to your friend, I will encourage you to help your friend, sit with him, teach him from the beginning to the end to finish his assignment. If you share, that means you are encouraging him to copy paste your assignment, right? And that's a sin. 好，所以如果你作业啊，不要记，这个学期绝对不要把你的写好的作业借给你的同学，你这是鼓励他犯罪，这个是很大的罪哦。这个是不行的，你不能鼓励人家犯罪，虽然你不犯罪。如果你要分享你的 assignment， 你就坐在他旁边教他从头到尾。好，这个才是这个有兄弟情啊、姐妹情啊，对不对？所以你要好好的教你的同学，而不是把你的作业写完了分享给他，借他看。没有借他看的，借他看就是鼓励他作弊。你这个这是一种罪，所以你不可以做这种事情。OK， so this term, if we found any case like that, you someone who share their assignment and someone who copy paste others' assignment, both of them, you will get 0 for that case. Now, second time, I will just ask you to do this, to drop this class. 如果第一次发现这是0分，第二次发现，我们就请你会 restore this class. 好，这个很重要。Okay. So this is our tentative schedule. Tentative means temporary, not finally. So 我还会再改 I will change this later on because I just noticed that March 1st is a holiday. So nobody will come to school. And in order to make it consistent with the Monday class, so the March 2nd we also have a 1 day late. 好，所以因为我昨天才发现3月1号放假，所以因为我们想要让两个班级的速度是一样的，所以我们也安排了3月2号的让大家可以放假。但是我们后面的课程 ，so that means I will slightly adjust all the schedule after the second week. 好，那 because originally I scheduled the 5th week we will have the first exam, but after 1 week holiday, and we only have 3 in total class for the first exam. That will be scary. So, I will change the schedule later on, probably postpone the exams a week later. 好，所以我们可能会把这个考试的时间就是往后延1周，所以第一次考试可能就是在第6周。And so all the schedule will postpone 1 week. So we will have the first exam at the 6th week, and then here we will have second exam at 12 weeks. and I will postpone all the course schedule. And here we have assignment and also milestone. Milestone is for project checkpoint. So the first milestone, I will check your progress in class. So every group can know other groups' performance at that point. And I will let you know how I check those project performance at the end. So 在 milestone one 的时候，你们应该会有一些些的规划，就是对你们的期末 project 会已经有规划了。所以在 first milestone 的时候，你们应该会上来，我们每一组 we have a 5 minutes presentation during the class for each group. So I will check your performance and then your schedule, and then I will give you some suggestions at that time, so you know how to proceed your project. And the second milestone, it's at the 16th week. This second milestone is going to be with Arizona State University professor and her team. So this milestone, you will have to schedule with that ASU professor online. So each group will schedule the meeting time with them online because we have a time difference. 他 Arizona 跟我们差了10个小时左右吧，所以我们到时候会把老师就 ASU 那边老师的时间，他会带几个博士生一起去听你们的 project， 所以到时候在 milestone 2的时候，你们必须要跟他们 demo 你们的 final project. I think at the 16th week, your project has to be 80% done already. Okay, so at that time, they will give you some more suggestions, but I don't know. So here, this week, each group has to schedule a meeting with ASU professor online. So, and they will give you some suggestions at the time. And after that week, I have a very creative idea. That is showing your final projects to your relatives. 什么是 relatives？ 好，现在讲中文哦，就是我觉得这是我的创意，就是呢，你们呢，大家都会觉得 ，you know， 好的，先讲个英文好了，不然 Sebastian 会觉得很孤单。好，就是 you know after going to the college, you might feel far from your family, right? And your family never know what you have done in your class. So they always ask you, what did you learn in the university, in the college? And you never know how to answer them, right? So I am going to give you a chance to show your work in front of your family. So 4 of you will form a group. So you just need to find 2 relatives. Two relatives. So relatives is senior, like your mother, uncle, auntie, grandma, grandpa, okay, whatever, they have to understand what you have done in your class. And so 4 of you find 2 relatives and to show your application. While you are showing your application and teach them how to use your application, you have to take a video. Then we will know you really did that. And that is one thing I think after the college, everybody I give you more chance to talk to your parents. Is that good? I think that's very sweet. So, 4个人找2个长辈哈 relatives, not including your sister or your brothers. No, I mean your senior generation, like your uncle, auntie, parents, grandpa, grandma, whatever. So not And don't pretend, don't try to make up as elders and then pretend in front of the video. We are not blind, right? So 所以不要化妆变成老样，然后说那是我妈，不行。好，你就是要找两个长辈，一组4个人，只要找2个长辈，然后介绍你的 application 给他们看，然后教他们，然后请他们认识你的 application 之后，说一段他们的感觉，这样是一个心得感想，小小的就好了，不用太多这样子。对 ，Then we will at the end, the last week, we will find a place to demo your final project. Each group will make a poster. 好，每一个小组都要做一张海报，然后我们会在某一个地方去做展览。While we are demonstrating our projects, I will also display all your videos there. So, 所以你们的那个摄影拍出来的 video 我会在那个展览的地方让它一直重播，所以大家就可以看一看啊，别人对这个其他小组的这个意见，我觉得蛮有趣的啊，你觉得呢？没有啦，你不觉得上了大学以后跟父母亲跟长辈越来越远吗？所以我们需要建立一点桥梁，然后让他们知道我们在做什么。So this is my idea for this final project, and I'm excited for that. Okay, any question? Oh, by the way, exam 3. It's like last term. No. This term, exam 3 only for someone who needs it. Someone who needs it. I will define who needs that. So if you already have a high score, please don't come to me to say I want to take another exam. No, you don't have that time. You have to focus on your final project. Okay. 成绩很好的同学，不要再来告诉我说你还想要考第3次考试。想要让成绩更高，不要这么爱考试好吗？你就好好的去做你的 final project。这个第3次考试要考的人 ，I will invite someone who needs that. I will invite them before exam 3. So just wait for my invitation. OK， 所以考第3次考试只有我邀请的人才能来考啦，哈。我没有邀请你就不要来，拜托哈，不要这么爱考试。OK，any question？ 有没有任何问题？孩子们 ，final project 4人一组，2个 milestone， 一次是跟我报告，一次是跟 ASU 的人报告。第2次的报告必须要自己小组去跟他们 booking 时间，然后他们会给你一些 suggestion 跟评分。好，那所以第2次已经很靠近最后期末了，所以那个时候你大概要有80%左右的完成度。有没有什么问题？有没有问题？大家对这个安排一切都还好吗？请说。No, here. Report to relatives. So this week, you are going to take videos with your parents. Of course, if you want to invite them to come to our final presentation, that's okay too. 好，所以 you don't need to ask your relatives to come to our in-class presentation. But if they're interested in that, of course they can come. So we will have a final project presentation at the last week, and we will try to find a place, open place, whatever. Probably the first floor of business school. 可能是商学院1楼 ，whatever， 哪一间教室，可爱的教室。 我们就会把它借下来，然后让你们去 demo 你们的 project。那一天你可以邀请你的父母，如果他们已经就是对你们的 project 非常有兴趣，想要给你们加油，那你就可以邀请他了，来看看也没有关系，我觉得还蛮有意思的。对，那基本上只有不麻烦他们劳驾他们的话，就是拍 video 这样。所以这一周会让你们去拍 video， 或者你们之前就拍一点可以，可是你要做到某个程度，没有不会做到一半，你妈就问你说，这都是 bug 哦，他说那没当啊，那这样子就不行了，对不对？或者是这个妈妈就说，这怎么卡住了，这怎么下不去，这不行嘛，对不对？所以你至少也要做个80%、90%才可以去 demo 给他看啊，对吗？然后你也不能跟你妈说，妈你不能动，我动就可以了，下一步我来，是不是不行哈？你尽量要让他可以自己来哈。好 ，Any question? Any other question? 中文就好了啦，除非你的家人那个。Yeah, they are asking me when they are present to their parents, should they use English or Chinese, right? 那除非你家人真的很想要，我儿子好优秀，真的很想听英文，那也是可以啦。还有就是有些爸妈在英文很好嘛，对不对 ？OK 的，对，要英文也行，要中文也行，要你爸妈 OK。好吗？他 OK， 我 OK， 好，你看，台语也行，就是有些是要给阿公阿妈看的嘛，对不对？也 OK，OK， 好，好 ，Any question？ 还有没有什么问题？好，我们是要介绍我们的we are going to introduce our work to our family, not to make them feel burden, right? So we need to make them fun and interest in our work, not make them crazy. So just be nice to them. 好，还有没有其他问题？没有吗 ？Okay. So let me see. 好，没有其他的问题的话，那我们来看一下我们的。So let me review. Do you still remember what we introduced in last term? So the most important concept we introduced last term is inheritance. So inheritance is something you inherit from your parents. So parents part is superclass and the kids part is the subclass. So do you still remember how to define subclass? When should we define subclass? Should we define subclass based on the attributes or based on the method? 我们为什么要设定 subclass? So, for example, I really like this example, students. So, students, when I have students as a superclass, how can I make a subclass for students? What is the better subclass to define students? 所以 students depend. We make a subclass of students based on students' attributes or based on students' methods. 还记得吗？我们在设计这个 subclass 的时候，我们到底是根据 superclass 的 attribute， 还是根据 superclass 的 method？ 是因为这个 method 有差异才要去建 subclass， 还是 attribute 有差异才要去建 subclass？ Okay, now let's choose. Do you think female students and male students are good subclass for students? If you think that is a good that are good subclass, can you raise your hand? 都没有。 Okay, female and male students, they have the same behaviors when they are as a students, right? So depends on attribute to define subclass is not a good way. So what is the good way? You have to think about whenever you create subclass, you have to think about whether those subclasses have different behavior, different methods. So for example, graduate students and undergraduate students. So what are the different parts between these two? 假设我们刚刚说了，女同学、男同学不是一个好的 subclass，因为女同学、男同学他们当做一个学生，他们的行为都是一样的，并不会因为男生女生就有所差别。所以我们说，那我们要设计 subclass 的时候，应该是去考虑他的行为上面有差异。那我们上个学期已经有讲过的是研究生跟大学生，那研究生跟大学生到底有什么行为上面的差异呢？好，譬如说选课的差异，有些只有研究生可以选，有些大学生才能选。选课有差异，缴费有差异。大学生是 all you can eat， 你缴一笔学费就全部都可以修到爆，这样。那研究生不是啊，研究生是一个一个 credit， 他修多少付多少钱。所以在计算这个 register 的部分，这个 behavior 也有所差异，对？好，那还有什么其他的差异，就会造成我们会 define two subclass based on their method. So when we think about to create methods or create subclass, we have to think about whether those subclass has different methods. Okay. So in the Java the code, how can we implement inheritance? That's very easy. You define the class and then you use this keyword extends. Extends means I'm going to inherit some class, superclass here. So that just easy as this, right? So it extends these keywords can show the inheritance in code. And some other keywords related to inheritance is super. So when we know subclass inheritance all the attributes and method from their superclass. So, but what if the subclass want to override superclass method? And in subclass, they want to override the superclass method, and they also want to call superclass method. How can we differentiate the override one and the one from superclass? Then we should use super that method, this part, to call the method. And so super, and another part is whenever we in subclass, whenever we call the constructor of the superclass, we will also use super. But that super is different usage. So here, you see, here we have dog. Dog inheritance from the animal, and dog constructor. When I want to create the dog constructor, here inside the constructor, I can call superclass constructor like this way. So super name. Okay? And here is using super to call the inheritance method. So super.it. This is two different ways. One way is that I treat super as a constructor, and one way is I treat super as an object from the superclass. 好，这样有没有什么问题？ super 就两种用法，一种就是把它当做 object 的方法去呼叫它 它不是去呼叫它继承的那个，就很简单，就这样，就 super 点什么。那另外一种就是去呼叫 super 的 constructor， 就是 super 本身的 constructor。所以既然它是一个 method， 我当然就是要把它直接呼叫，然后当做 method 来使用，这样子。Only two ways to use super with keyword. Okay. Okay. Object. And object is the cosmic superclass, the biggest superclass for all the class. So this object, we don't need to manually specify extends object. We don't do that because by default, all the class inherit from object. 在 Java 里面，因为是物件导向程式设计嘛，所有的 class 不管是您产生的，或者是这个 Java library 里面的，全部都是继承 object 这个物件。所以这个是 by default 就预设就是继承了 object， 所以你不需要在你的 class 里面 extend object， 你不需要做这件事情，因为 by default 它就是已经继承了，好，所以你不用这样做 ，OK？ So you would never have this one. Public class employee extends object. No, you don't need to do that because whenever you define a class that is originally it's default define extends by from object. So you don't need to do that. Okay. And here you can assign all the subclass object to the superclass. So this is upcasting. So since they are the same family, they can do casting one way, the other way, right? And you have to remember how to do the casting. Okay. And let me remind you, array. See, although array can, we can use class data type to create class array, or we can use primitive data type to create the data array. So like this, right? New int 20. This means I will arrange 20 int space to make an int array. Whenever we create an array, that is become an object. Array is part of object. So if you see new is actually ask the computer that we need a memory for a particular object. Okay. So new employee. Employee originally is a class, is an object, and I will create 20 employee space for this object. So of course, employee array is an object, so that can be assigned to the object type. And int, although int is a primitive data type, they only set value. But when we put 20 int together, that is original, that already make it as an object. So whenever we make an array, you have to remember that an array is an object. So we can assign this int20 to an object. OK， 所以这里很简单，只是要提醒大家 ，array 虽然可以记录 class type 的 data， 还有 primitive data type 的 data， 那 array 本身，当你在电脑里面 new 一个 array 这样子的一件事情的时候，它就会把它当作是 new 一个 object， 因为它就是会在电脑中去存取某一些 memory， 让这个物件可以去执行，这是在 Java 里面的设定。所以当你不管是用 class type 去形成一个 array， 或者是 primitive data type 去形成 array。这个 array 形成之后，它都是一种物件，所以它可以被 assign 给 object 形态的物件。好 ，OK。So vehicle is the superclass, and scooter is the subclass. So inside the vehicle, we have honk and move, these two methods. And scooter, we have honk and brake. Brake is the new method for the subclass. But honk inside the scooter, this is an overriding method. Override the vehicle's honk. Okay. So, one more thing we want to remind you is the overloading and the overriding. Override occurs in the inheritance. So once I inherited from another class, I can override the methods I inherited from the superclass. So like parent, I have a fun method. Child, I also have a fun method. In this case, this is called override. And what is the overload? Overloading. Overloading means in a single class, you have several methods with the same name. So I have several methods called fun, but they have different input parameters and different return type. So this way is overload, and that way is override. 有没有问题? Okay, so this is also called polymorphism. Polymorphism means many kinds, many ways to represent the same thing. 所以多形就是说我可以用多种形态去表现同样的东西。So for this, overloading and overriding, they are all the different ways to represent one method. Overloading, it means in the same class, I can use different way to receive input and return output by the same name. So that is overloading. And overriding is once I inherit from the other class, I can override my inheritance class methods. So I have different way to represent the same method. Okay? 所以这个都是 polymorphism. But this is only one kind of polymorphism for methods. Later on, next class, we will introduce interface. Things now the class, single class or class family, they are having relationship. But what if the class doesn't have a relationship? They don't have a relationship. How can we make things repeatedly? We will, for example, student. In student class, we can get the average height. Average height means I will input each student's height and average it. In the register class, I can get average transaction. That means I will input each transaction and average it. But average height, average transaction, are they the same? They have same logic. Just input, different input, and average it. So they are the same, but I have to create whenever I have a new class. I need an average information of that class. I have to create the same procedure again. So this procedure, this logic, has to be created every time when I create a new class. That doesn't make sense, right? 我们同样的程序去做平均，在学生里面，平均身高，就是把每个学生的身高输入，然后去平均它。在 register 就是那个收银机里面，平均交易就是把每一笔交易放进去，然后平均它嘛。那 平均交易跟平均身高计算方法是一样的。那以后我要是要做任何的 class， 只要有平均什么，我就要再做一次，把全部input都放进去，然后再 average， 这样不是很比较正确吗？是不是？就我为什么要把这种程序就重新做那么多次？我不要做那么多次。So interface is another polymorphism way that allows us to put different input into the same procedure and get the output. So that is a little bit different from this inheritance. And it's more difficult to understand if you need to pay more attention. 好，这样我们接下来会介绍那个 interface， 就是有关于 procedure， 一个 procedure 要怎么样被不一样的 class 用，那你又不用同一笔一直写一直改，那这样子的一件事情比较难去 implement， 大家可能要花一点时间去练习。So that is also one kind of polymorphism. And inheritance interface is the most important concept in Java. That's it. Okay. And here, testing. If you are doing up testing, that's easy because child originally defined extends from parent, so you can assign child object to parent. But when we revert it, if we want to assign parent to child, parent doesn't know child. Parent doesn't know how many kids he has, right? So how can we and compiler not sure. Compiler always not sure whether this parent has a relationship with this child. So they will ask you to manually define the type you want to convert to. So you can manually define the child in front of the new parents in this way to assign the superclass object to the subclass. But this way is very dangerous. If parent and child doesn't have any relationship, if you do this, that will occur some execution error. So we introduce a function instance of to make sure this parent and this child, they are having relationship. So, okay. Okay. So here is the example. This is the parent class. This is the child class. And this is the example to use these two classes. So you can assign the child object to the parent, that's no problem. You can assign the parent to the child, but you have to specify the child type here. And then you can using this child object to call the methods belong to this object. Okay. An instance of is the function that can always help you to identify whether these two class has a relationship, whether one superclass can become instance of your subclass. So, like this here, cat, you can assign cat, kitty is a cat type, and then you will check whether animal can be assigned to the kitty, to the cat, and then you can predict the result, of course. And of course, if your class type, if you assign null to a class, null doesn't mean any class type. So null would not be any type. So in this case, kitty is null and cat cannot be an instance of kitty because null means no object, no any type. 好，所以 null 的意思在电脑里面就是告诉他说我没有这个物件，没有物件，不管它这个 null 是 assign 给什么形态，都是一样，没有那个都没有产生的意思。 所以当你看这个 Kitty 被 assign 这个 null， 但是 Kitty 这个 cat 可不可以 instance of Kitty？ 不行，因为不能 instance of null 这样子，null 就是不存在的。好，common error please remember that instance of is usually help us to do done tasks. So from the if you want to assign superclass object to the subclass, we use testing. So we need to check the instance of. In other case, you don't need to use that. So don't overuse this function. Okay. Here, object. Since object is the biggest superclass, object has several different methods, and two most popular methods. One is toString, one is equals, and a lot of different class they override these two methods. Okay. So like equals inside the object usually is one. This object, A object is the B object, or are they the same object? So that is equal. But like a string, in string is class override objects equals method. Remember, strings equal are different. Strings equal means I'm going to compare two strings content. Remember? And that is because inside the string class, they override the objects equal method. Okay? So we can override this method different way. Okay, let me show you something like this. Here, we have a course class, and here is a tester. So if I'm using, I can instantiate an object from course, and then I can use C that toString. And you will ask me, there is no toString method inside course. How can I use C that toString? This toString is actually from object. It's object's method. So you can directly use it because all the class inheritance from object. So if you print it out, you will see it will look like this. But it doesn't mean something for you, right? So usually we will change toStrings this method. So how can we change it? Like this. Inside the course method, we can override this toString method. So override, I will return something meaningful to myself. So I will set up the course number, whatever information here. And then so when I call C that toString, that will print out something meaningful to me, not something meaningful to the computer. Okay. Equals the same. So here I have a student class, and I have several, and in this method I have 3 student objects. And then if I print it out, you will see student 1 equals student 2. Here, equals means it's inherited from the object, so it means equal. Whether these are the 2 same objects. And student 1 is obviously one object, and student 2 is obviously another student object. Of course, they are not the same object, right? So, of course, they are false. But what if we want to check whether they are the same name? So then we need to override equals. So how can we do that? Here we can change it. This is from equals objects, and then we can change it and to make sure if it is a student, so we will check the names, and then it will print out student one's name and student two's name are different. Student two and student three are the same. So in this case, we override objects equals. Okay, and that is how we do inheritance. Do you have any questions? If not, then we remind you that we will still have a little bit things to announce. That is about how to do a project. So TA will go through a project procedure with you later on. But now, we will have a break. During the break, you can look for your project partners. And let me remind you, a lot of time, girlfriend, boyfriend, make a project team. After the project, they will break up. So not a good thing to be together. And good friends are not encouraged to be the same project. Break up. That happens all the time. So, but with someone not so familiar, maybe that's a good chance to become a couple afterward. So, okay, I just remind you that it happens all the time. So, and during the winter break, winter vacation, we ask you to upload your videos so you can check other students whether they have the same mindset or whether they have some skills you need in your project. You can make a former team together. So 4 in a group. And a Monday student can only form a group with Monday student. Tuesday student can only form the group with Tuesday students. We will not accept to mix up. Okay. And any question? 有没有任何问题呀？就是可以来谁就是可以跟我们可爱的外国人一组啊，然后你们就可以，他很认真哦，所以你们要好好的赶快照顾他哈。好，那先下课，Let's have a 10 minutes break。
好，那我讲一下，就是这礼拜的那个 lab 呢，就是请你们要把那个组员先找好，然后给你们1个礼拜的时间。那我们这次会分2个组别，一个就是 final project。那 final project 的话就是4个人一组，然后帮我按照顺序就是你的学号啊，你的姓名。然后另外的话就是那个 homework 的部分，这一学期的 homework 呢就变成2个人一组。然后一组只要交1份就好。那 lab 一样就是1个人交1份这样子。那个寒假的时候有请你们就是把自己的自我介绍就是放在旧的那个 Moodle 上面。那我已经把它整理好，然后放在这个云端上面。就如果你们要去找组员的话，可以点进来这个云端里面，然后去看他们的自介影片，然后之后去筛选比较适合的组员这样子。那因为比较少人教，所以有教的人一样就是跟上学期我们就是会把它作为这个加分项目。那如果你们要补教的话，一样在上面去做新增的动作。那因为我这个那个权限是可以编辑的，所以你们就一样就是新增一个资料夹，然后打自己的名字，然后之后如果你就是把那个影片拉进去就可以了。那接下来就是要讲那个 final project 的部分。那 final project 的部分呢，就是规定的形式，就请你们就是要去把所有的流程按照这个流程图把它画出来，然后跟那个工作分配表以及那个你完成的时间一样，就是附在上面。那在老师刚才有说，就是在这个 第一次考试后1周就有一个那个 milestone one， 这个地方呢就是需要跟老师去报告说你们想做什么。那这个想做什么的时候，你们就必须要先做一个那个 user study， 来了解说那个使用者的需求究竟是什么。那你们想要怎么做？那一样就是要报告给老师听。那这大概就是今天要做的事情，就是请你们去做分组的动作。好，然后如果你们有其他的问题，就再来前面这样子。